We are ready.
Hello and welcome back. Another joint episode here with Denton and myself, Lily. How are you doing this fine day?
I am doing very well, and it is quite a fine day too. Unlike a lot of previous St. Patrick's Day, it's quite warm. It's what 52 Fahrenheit at the moment. It's been sunny. It's been a very good day, and
That's
so
pretty nice.
yes.
We just got a metric ton of snow here in Colorado.
Oh, how nice.
20 inches in some places.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes, not good. Well, at least you can have plenty of snowball fights. Nothing else. But I don't think I'd care for that too much.
So this episode, we're going to talk about St. Patty's Day and All Snakes Day.
No, I like that all Snakes Day. Yes, I like that. And I mean, you are drinking something there, but I presume it is not something like Guinness, for the greater honor and glory of the saint.
It's green coffee.
It's green coffee. I like that green coffee. Very good. That's very
I have my
appropriate.
green shirt on. I don't know if you can tell.
Uh,
Green shirt.
it doesn't show too well. Well,
No.
I have a green hat here. I'm going to put this on.
Oh,
There is
there
a
you
green
go.
There's a green. Now it's not an Irish hat. It's actually from Bavaria, but what the heck? It's close. It's green anyway.
Close enough.
Close enough. Close enough. Yes. So I have my green hat on. So
Mine is probably from China. So,
hmm. Oh, once it's green. Yeah.
yeah,
In St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day has become a sort of international thing. I mean, you
it really
know,
has.
like on St. George's Day, the whole world doesn't say we're English. On Steuben Day, they don't say, well, we're all German. But St. Patrick's Day, the entire world goes Irish. I mean, and we have all these strange things that we see where rivers are dyed green, fireboats spray green water, the
Yeah.
line down the road is painted green. It would never happen here in Ireland, where Patrick's Day comes from. It happens in America. I
Oh,
mean, if
it's
you said to me,
crazy here.
oh,
Crazy.
yes, I saw the river in Boston dyed green, and it's quite amazing. If you
Hmm.
said to the Dublin City Council, let's do all the lines on the road green and dye the Liffey. I mean, yeah, they would not think very much of that idea at all. But
No.
and I mean it's especially big in America. We have so many now in the parade today. We have the high school marching bands, and we have various fire departments and police and all this from America, and it's quite comical too. All the Americans, they'll be there with their Aaron sweaters or the "Kiss Me, I'm Irish" T-shirt, and they're saying I'm Irish, saying no, you're not. Your ancestors came over on the Mayflower or something, but it really. You're not really Irish, but what the hell? On St. Patrick's Day, you're Irish, and that's it.
Hey, I'm Irish. I'm Irish.
Okay. Yes, Brad. Okay, that's fine. You hold that thought. You hold that. So, what wonderful things do you want to talk about on
Okay,
Paddy?
so I got some interesting facts about
Mhm.
St. Patrick. We're going to go over them and you're going to give us your thoughts on that since you're there.
I
And I'm
am
sure that you have a wider breadth of knowledge on the subject matter. So, okay.
well. I mean, I do like to tell people that I am the repository of the sum total of all human knowledge. Then some rotten swine goes and asks me a question I can't answer, and it blows a bubble. But I'll do the best I can.
Okay, so here we go. This is the first one. He was not Irish.
Yes, Patrick, in spite of having such an Irish name, I mean, how could you be more Irish than Patrick? No, he was Romano-British. He was captured by Irish pirates, like Irish raiders, because while, like, Vikings were raiding on one side of Britain, while the Irish were raiding on the other side of Britain, they brought him to Ireland, um, and he was converted to Christianity, like here, because he did not bring Christianity to Ireland; it was already here.
Yeah.
He returned to Britain, but a voice from above, a heavenly voice, told him to go back and convert the Irish, spread the faith, which he did. But yes, he was not Irish, though I think a lot of people assume that St. Paddy was probably Irish, but he wasn't. So that's number one. So what have you next?
Okay, so the next one is he spent his early years in Ireland as a slave.
Yes,
And that
indeed.
was, you were just talking about that. He was captured by slave traders.
That's right. He spent years here as a slave, um, because I mean, the raids for slaves were going on at that time all over the place. And as I say, while the Norse had begun to, appear quite here and there, the the main raiding at that time would have been the Scots coming down over Hadrian's Wall into Northumbria, and it would have been Irish pirates and that coming across raiding Wales and the west coast of Britain. So yes, he spent quite a long time here as a slave.
So I'm reading right here. It says that he actually wrote about that time. And it says he believed it happened because of his lack of faith in God. He remained a slave in Ireland for 6 years, during which he prayed many times a day. So it was
Yes,
apparently that was his punishment.
yes, indeed. Yeah, because he did leave. He did leave a couple of accounts of his life, and yes, he was praying away. He didn't think maybe he'd been as quite as faithful as he should have been. And as I say, like he was converted to Christianity while he was here. Before that, I mean, he would have been a pagan. It's quite an interesting story. So what
You're
next?
gonna you're gonna love this next one.
Oh, goody. Yes. What?
He once refused to suck a man's breast. Did you know about that?
No, well, I knew about that one, dear. Yes. Oh, I tell you, those sailors, you wouldn't know what they'd be up to. But yes, when he was on the ship, they asked him to suck their nipples as a sign of friendship. You see, and I mean, yes, that is a sign of friendship. I mean, if you
That's
wanted to,
very close friendship.
very close friendship. I mean, I think if you wanted to suck my nipples, it would be really pal. We'd be really, we'd be pretty close. But he refused, not because he seemed to have anything against it, but he felt his God would not like it. You know,
No,
uh,
his God would not like that at
no, his
all.
God wouldn't. His God would not have liked that at all. So he said no, and they said, well, just show your friendship and all that in another way, which is what he did. But he didn't condemn it. And this is something, actually, something that came up in a gay pride meeting the other day, talking about St. Patrick, that he never actually condemned it. He didn't say it was wrong, just he didn't think his God would approve of it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's interesting.
Well, that's a very interesting. I had never heard that. So that's new to
But
me.
it's quite, I mean, yeah, it's something a lot of people don't know. Uh, and it is, at first sight, it is rather odd. They want him
It
to
is.
suck their nipples. I
That
mean,
is an odd way to show friendship.
it certainly is. It's not about, join the Navy, see the world, and suck nipples kind of thing. Yeah, a bit weird. Bit weird.
You're yeah, I'm friends with you, you're friends with me. So the obvious next step is that we should suck each other's nipples.
But I mean, well, look, isn't it so obvious? I mean, it's so
Absolutely.
glaringly obvious that we should have a nipple
I
sucking.
wish people would greet me that way.
Well, if we ever meet you, I'll greet you that way if you'd like. I mean, but I should know we're just good friends. So we're just good friends.
All right. So here we go. Patrick heard voices and had visions. Now, I did know about this.
Yes, yes, he had. Well, I mean, I think all the saints and that of those days, they all had visions and heard voices. It was pretty much standard operation and procedure for being a saint in those days. And I mean, people of course debate some of them. Were they actual? Were they hallucinatory? Had they been, puffing a little bit of the old wacky backy or something? Um, but yes, he did. But as I say, nearly all the accounts you will read of the saints from that period, they were having visions and that this is pretty much common.
Of course, you've got to. If you're worth your
Well,
salt.
oh yeah, I mean, if you were talking to another saint, they said, "How many visions have you had?" And said, "Well, no, actually, I haven't had any visions." What? You haven't had any visions? Call yourself a saint? You
No
haven't had a vision?
sainthood for you.
No, so no sainthood for you. You're out. Go and get a good vision and come back with that.
Yes. All
Hmm.
right. So here's the next one. There were never any snakes in Ireland for him to banish. And I know that
Well,
because it's too cold.
absolutely
Snakes can't
true.
handle it.
No, they can't indeed. I mean, we have plenty of two-legged snakes, or plenty of those, but none of the slithery kind. Yes, the idea of St. Patrick banishing snakes, of course, is ridiculous because he wouldn't have been able to find any. There are no native reptiles in Ireland, except we have one little common lizard. That's the only native species. There never were snakes, and one theory is that they loved allegory and stories in those days. They would wrap something up in allegory.
Right.
And one popular thing, which seems to make sense, is that the snakes referred to were the Druids.
Of
They were
course.
symbol of the pagan faith, and of course, they are personified then as serpents, snakes, because of course snakes were associated with the devil because it was a snake that caused all that fruit thing back in the Garden of Eden,
All the ruckus.
all the trouble there. I must say, as Dave Allen, the Irish comedian, said, he said, if a snake came down in front of me, I'd take a step back. But he said, if it started talking to me, I'd shit myself. But anyway, I mean, if this was a serpent that had done that,
Beware of snakes and women.
beware of snakes and women. And so it's quite possible that that is the actual case because the people at the time, being familiar with the way these allegorical stories and that were told, obviously the native Irish knew perfectly well there weren't any snakes slithering around in the place. So they would have seen the point of this story, that he's driving out the snakes insofar as he's driving evil out of Ireland. The snakes are a personification of evil, and this would have been the Druids that he would have actually been driving out, which
Right.
seems now whether he actually did drive out any Druids. We know he did burn, he did destroy some Druid things, effigies, and that. Whether he actually drove anyone out, I don't think there's any evidence for that.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's another thing that I think is important to touch on here is that there's no evidence that he did anyone any actual harm. Because a lot of people
no,
think equate that with some kind of mass kill off or that he killed the pagan. He didn't kill any pagans. There was no
no,
violence associated with him.
no. I haven't seen any accounts of anything like that, and it really seems more likely that the pagan faith simply died out as it competed with Christianity. Certainly, there was nothing like in Britain, where the last stronghold of the Druids was on the island of Anglesey. And Suetonius Paulinus, the governor of Britannia, took a couple of legions across the Menai Straits, and he slaughtered the Druids. He wiped them out,
Right.
and that was the end of
Yeah, there was
Druid.
definitely loads of Christian violence against pagans, but
Yes,
Saint Patrick was not associated with that
no, he
in
he didn't
particular.
do anything. No, he didn't do anything like the Romans did, where they just exterminated them. I mean, it did work. Your trouble with Druids, exterminate Druids, peace with Druids. Yeah, it worked. But Patrick doesn't appear to have done anything quite like that at all.
So we should also spend a second talking about All Snakes Day.
Well,
Um,
yes, all
so
snakes.
a lot of pagans have adopted this moniker for today as opposed to celebrating a Catholic holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, they celebrate All Snakes Day and the fact that we're still here. So we
Mm-hmm.
were not
Yes.
driven
No, it's still
out
here.
and we still exist.
Mm-hmm. An interesting point too is that in those days, of course, there was no Catholic Church. There was the Church. That
Right.
was it. It didn't really become the Catholic Church until Luther, the Reformation, and all this. And you had the Protestants and the Catholics.
And the
But
split and
yeah, before that, it really was just the
to
church.
knock on the door.
Mm.
Ein Minuten bitter.
Yeah, indeed. But it's quite a fascinating thing in history, and one of the ways, of course, that the church did get rid of paganism was basically to take paganism and Christianize it. A lot of people don't seem to realize this.
Yeah.
And it was done in Europe too, but it was greatly done in Ireland. There's actually a letter. It was written by the Pope in six something or other to the new Bishop of London in England. And the bishop had complained that he was having a problem converting the pagans. It wasn't going too well. And the Pope said, use their own sacred days, use their own sacred things, Christianize them. And that will, this was actually an instruction from Rome. And here in Ireland, what they did, they would build their churches on pagan sacred sites, beside sacred groves. They might build them from wood from sacred groves. They would baptize people using the water from the pagan holy wells. Now, there's over 3,000 holy wells all over Ireland.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, most of them date from pagan times. But yes, in ancient Ireland, you couldn't throw a stone in any direction without hitting a well. So you're baptizing people with water that they are used to using in ceremonies. Your church is on one of their sacred sites. They took the triple Celtic goddess, Bridget, was one of the goddesses of the Tuatha De Danann, and they popped a halo on her head, made her one person called a Saint Bridget. Now there was a woman actually called Bridget, but the whole concept of Saint Bridget came from the pagan goddess. So again, you have this connection, and of course Saint Bridget is one of the three patron saints of Ireland, along with Saint Patrick and Saint Columba. And
there's another one that I just read about actually today. Tell me if you know about this. The cross with the circle in it, that Irish cross symbol that we all see all the time.
Oh, yeah,
that circle was, there was a lot of sun worship. That circle was put there to represent the sun.
Yes.
And that's something that specifically St. Patrick did to do exactly what you're saying, to put their symbolism into Christian stuff.
The old sun symbol was a circle with a full cross in it. So like what he did was to take the circle, put the Celtic cross, if you like, in it. So you had combined the Celtic and the Christian. And again, it was to help people to convert. It was much easier to convert people if they were using their water, their sacred groves, their all this. And of course, it was very clever. It was very subtle. And I mean, we see the same with Christmas, because nearly all the traditions of Christmas, apart from Jesus being born, and he said he wasn't born on the 25th of December, of course.
Right.
Apart from that, I mean, the Yule log, the ham, giving presents, green plants, all this came from pagan times, principally like Old Norse and Germanic. But again, it was adapted to help with keeping pagans happy and getting them to become Christians. Quite clever. It was psychology long before Sigmund Freud came along. The church knew that stuff centuries before. It was quite clever. Like the cathedral in Notre Dame de Paris, I think, was actually built originally on the site of the original church. There was built on the site of a temple to Jupiter. I think it was a Roman temple. So
yeah, I have heard that.
Like that, yes. Very clever, very, very, very clever, very subtle, and it meant they didn't have to go around like killing anybody or forcing people. I mean, not that they wouldn't, and not that they didn't in other places, but they were able to convert them without force, which was a good way to do it.
Yeah, a lot less to clean up afterwards. All right, so this next one is kind of vague. So I'm going to read a little bit of it. It says he had a dirty secret. Okay, so then what it says here is Patrick believed his missionary work in Ireland as penance for something he did in his younger years. He was often punished for spreading the word of God up and down the country, but it never stopped him. In his writings, he revealed that someone had disclosed his early sin to the other bishops. They brought up against me after 30 years something I had already confessed, some things I had done one day, rather in 1 hour when I was young, Patrick wrote. So he never elaborated on what that deed had been. But apparently there was something that he did when he was younger that was real bad that
Yes,
later came back to haunt him, just like with politicians. Don't do
yes,
anything bad if you're a politician. Somebody's going to dig up some dirt on you.
yes. Somebody will find it. Yes, yes. Now, as I said, I'm not sure like what he actually did because
Well,
it was
yeah, and it
only.
doesn't say,
Oh,
but
he never. He
I
never
guess
said.
worth mentioning.
Yes, yes. He had done something, but presumably he'd done all the penance and he'd prayed and he'd done all that, and they accepted. Oh, I keep getting messages there. I'm so popular, you see.
That's
The
actually quite endearing to me because at least, he wasn't perfect. There was something in his past that he
yes,
was not proud of.
yes, yes. No, no. He certainly you couldn't say he was 100% pure, shining, brilliant. But of course that applied to quite a few people. Well, I mean, Saint Francis, who became famous for loving animals and all this kind of thing. I mean, he had been a soldier. He was at one of the condottieri. He would have had quite a violent beginning, and then he went all nice, and started going around with birds sitting on his hand. So
Right.
that would not have been an uncommon thing. It would be interesting to know what Patrick had actually done.
I
Um,
know. I wish that I knew.
yeah, it probably wasn't all that bad. It's probably something that if we knew, we'd say, "Was that all?"
He probably had sex with a lady.
I would imagine it was something like that. Yeah, or maybe had sex with a guy, or maybe had
Whew.
both. Who knows? It's quite possible. But unfortunately, we will never know. It's very sad, really.
All right. The next one is simple enough. He never wore a shamrock.
No, no, the shamrock wasn't worn like as a symbol. Now, the story, because of course the story is that he used the shamrock to explain to the Ard Ri Heron, which is the High King of Ireland, to explain to him a trinity, how something could
The
have three
Trinity.
parts and yet be one. And that would have made perfect sense. I mean, it would make sense. The shamrock was used in decoration. Of course, it was well known to everyone. It was a common plant. So it is entirely possible that he did use it. I mean, it would have been a sensible thing to do because they're saying, well, how can something be in three parts but be one? You say, well, hang on a minute here, pluck that. See this? That's one plant that's got three parts. Yeah, it would have made sense, but we can't say he did. That's the story that he did. Um, it could be that it is made up. It may not be true, as is his lighting of the Beltane fire to get himself onto the hill of Tara. Um, I mean, you know about that, do you?
No,
The
that's what you're here
well,
for.
there were fires lit across Ireland at the feast of Beltane, which was a fire festival. And the High King would light the first fire, and then other fires would be lit and all this. And the story is that good old Paddy hoofed up onto the hill of Slane, which is about 9 miles from the hill of Tara. And he lit a fire at Beltane before the High King had lit one. And the High King looks across, sees the fire, and says, "Who the hell's over there lighting fires before? Get over there and get that guy. Bring him here." And druids went over. They couldn't put the fire out because it was a bit of a magic fire. Touch of Wagner there. But they brought him to the High King, etc., etc. Now, the problem with the story is that the Beltane fire wasn't lit on the hill of Tara. It was actually lit on a hill over 40 miles away near the modern town of Mullingar. Uh, and, given the fact that Ireland was heavily forested in those days, you would have had high trees. It's really almost impossible that the High King would have been able to see a fire on the hill of Slane from where he was over 40 miles away. So that seems a bit unlikely. It's quite possible that is just another story.
Just one of
So
those
that
grand elaborations that we get
yes,
up to make things
a
good.
grand elaboration because, as I say, it would have been the fire. The fire would have had to be enormous for one thing to be seen 40 miles away. and with all the trees in the way, the hill of Slane really isn't high enough that it would have compensated for someone 40 miles away standing beside tall trees. They wouldn't have been able to see it. So I think that one is probably just legendary, you know. But there's another very interesting aspect, I think. Unless do you have any more on your list?
Yes,
Oh,
three
good,
more.
go
We're
on.
down. We're down. We've got three more.
Oh,
This one was easy.
yes.
He didn't wear green.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Green was not. Green would not have been a color he would have worn. Now, in the church, at certain times of the year, the color of vestments and that changed. But I think in the early church, it's unlikely they were doing that. I mean, nowadays colors vary according to whether it's Easter or it's whatever it is. The color of the vestments often changes. But in the early days of the church, I doubt very much if that would have been the case. He probably would have worn whatever robe he happened to be wearing, you know. So no, he wouldn't have been going around in green. Not
All right.
intentionally. I mean, he might have had something that was dyed green, but it certainly wouldn't have been. He was wearing green because, well, I mean, that's Paddy's color, green. You know, that's no. So continue.
All right. So then Patrick was in his 40s when he brought Christianity to Ireland.
To be honest, I'm not actually sure what age he was, but he certainly wasn't terribly young because he was I mean, he was an adult. He was captured. He was brought here. He returned to Britain, came back again. So no, he would not have been all that young. Exactly what age he was, to be honest, I'm not really sure. But he certainly wasn't a spring chicken, put it that way.
And then the last one is Patrick means nobleman. I guess the name means nobleman.
No, did you know they have me on that one actually? Because to be honest, I'm not really sure what Patrick or Padraig, as it would be in Irish, actually means. So
Well,
there.
I'm glad I
Oh,
got you on one.
yeah. Well, you see, what did I tell you about being the sum total of the repository of the sum total of all human knowledge? You went and asked me a question I can't answer you. Right, I'm out of here. Right. No, yeah,
So do
no,
you have anything to add? Anything that we
well,
haven't talked about that you
well,
want to
there
add
is
about
something.
St. Patrick?
There is something about this international Irishness, you know, the way St. Patrick's Day has become so big around the world. I mean, we see the river in Chicago being dyed green. We see, a green line down Fifth Avenue in New York and all this. And all over the world, there's this great celebration of St. Patrick's Day. The comical thing is, the one place where that didn't really happen is here in
Mm-hmm.
Ireland. Um, we do not go any. I mean, we have a parade, of course. We have all that, and people go and they swig down lots of Guinness. Mind you, they swig down lots of Guinness on every
Every
other day
day, yeah.
as well. So that doesn't
This
really.
My
It,
theory is it's just a chance for people to get as wasted as they possibly can with a
there,
reason.
well, there is. You can say, well, no, I don't drink really, like, but for the greater honor and glory of the saint, like, I had a few. I only had a few, like, for the honor of Saint Patrick, like, yeah, it's a good excuse. But I mean, we don't paint lines green down the street. We don't dye the river Liffey green. We are very laid back compared with, say, America in celebrations. The very interesting thing about Patrick's Day parades is, I just made a note here. There was a Patrick's Day parade in America in 1737. Irish soldiers in the British Army had a parade. The first Patrick's Day parade in New York occurred in 1762. The first Patrick's Day parade in Ireland, believe it or not, it was in the city of Waterford, and that was in 1903. And Dublin didn't catch up until 1931, when Dublin had the first Patrick's Day parade. But there were Patrick's Day parades popping up in other countries long before. And I think that's rather an interesting fact, that the place where the least real celebration of Patrick's Day is here in Dublin. I mean, yes, we do have the big parade, but it's nothing compared with parades in America and in other countries, which is
Well,
kind
and
of.
I think that part of the reason for that is that, some of these other countries, especially America, got such a huge influx of immigrants
Mm.
from all different kinds of places that missed their homeland. And this was like the one time that they could celebrate their homeland.
Mhm.
And so I think it started out as that and just became everybody, let's get drunk and wear green,
Yes,
and
yes.
the same for like Cinco de Mayo, because it's just a drinking holiday. It's, Cinco de
Yes,
Mayo is you drink, you listen to mariachi music, and you eat tacos,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and on St. Patrick's Day, you drink and you eat cabbage and corned
Oh,
beef.
yes, corned beef and cabbage. You listen to some
Do you guys
Canadian.
have do you guys do cabbage and corned beef over there? Is it like, because I just feel like it's such a it's almost like in America, you eat a hamburger. That's just, it's not true.
No, it is an Irish national dish, corned beef and cabbage. A lot of the Irish dishes came from the peasantry years ago because they were cheap, they were easy to make. Corned beef, cabbage, anything with potatoes, stews, and that with potatoes in them. These were very much the foodstuff of the peasants. You might not have found the landed gentry eating some of those things, but they were, yes. Though I mean, it is a genuine thing. It's not like, say, chop suey, and everybody says, "Oh, that's Chinese." Actually, it was invented in America. So those are Irish dishes, certainly. The As I say, the drinking Guinness. Well, of course, the Irish do not need any excuse to do that any day. I mean, the cat's birthday. What the hell? We'll have a couple of
Right.
pints, but the food. I mean, that is certainly genuine. And there's lots of other traditional things here, like pig's feet. That would be
Hmm.
something you probably wouldn't encounter in America. Quite a lot of stuff like that,
There are
and
areas. There are
uh,
areas for pig's feet in
big
America.
starters, yeah. And soda bread. That's another big
Yeah.
Irish thing. And the traditional loaf, soda bread, has a cross cut in the top of it,
Hmm.
and now that makes it handy to break it to eat it. But the idea originally was, you see, that the soda bread was a weapon against the devil. Now, personally,
We
if
need we need plenty of those.
you pledge that, I think if Lucifer suddenly popped up there in a big cloud of sulfur and brimstone, and I held up a soda bread, said, "Nah, you're not getting me. Look, I got a soda bread. Ha ha."
Yes.
Don't think it would do very much.
A thought just crossed my mind that I have to mention. Um, Christmas is not very heavily associated with drinking, which is really weird because Yule is heavily associated with drinking.
Yes,
So how
yes.
did that happen where you got all of these other things that were associated with Yule except for the
Not to do.
drinking part, but then
Yes.
you've got Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day, and it's
Mm,
like not super associated with drinking, but it's
mm.
become all about drinking.
That is true. It's a very good point because, as I said, and everything about Christmas basically is pagan. But
Yeah.
the drinking aspect of the midwinter festival in Scandinavia and northern Germany did not translate over into Christmas, which is quite interesting. But there is a very interesting story. King Haakon the Good
Uh-huh.
in Norway tried to get Christians and pagans together. Like, he wanted to convert the country, but he was a decent guy. He wasn't, unlike Olaf Tryggvason, who came along later. It wasn't a matter of, if you don't accept the way of truth and love and justice, you die. No, Håkon didn't want that approach.
Wait,
He wanted to bring
was
everybody
it
together
was
happy.
it Olaf Tryggvason that got sainted?
Oh yes, Saint, yes.
Or was that all that was that Olaf?
Was Oh God, I
One
can't remember now. Would you
one of the
believe?
Olafs got sainted.
But yes, right. I think well, I should know that off the tip of my tongue, but
I
that was
know,
my.
me too.
There was a drink. There was a drink earlier, but Håkon decreed that Christmas and the pagan winter festival should be celebrated together, but everybody had to drink at least like about 4 gallons of ale or mead over the 3 days of the official festival.
It's about
Um,
drinking.
which was, I'd say it was quite popular with "Long Live King Haakon." So yeah, it didn't actually make people convert. It didn't actually, but it obviously made a lot of happy drunks lying around, and I'm sure they quite liked King Haakon, but it didn't actually achieve any great conversions, which I think is interesting. But
That's
he
too
tried.
funny.
He tried, which was
All
something.
right, I have one more tip, one more St. Patrick's Day tip. I
Yes.
don't know if this happens over there, but over here, our corned beef becomes very inexpensive. You can get it for $2, $3 a pound, especially directly after the holiday, whatever's left over.
Really?
If you take that corned beef and you soak it in ice water and change that ice water out frequently, you can basically turn that into a regular brisket, which costs about $7 to $10 a pound right now.
Oh.
So that
Huh.
is my St. Patrick's Day. You can stock up on what basically is essentially brisket,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get all that saltiness out by soaking it and changing out that water frequently. So
Oh.
there's a tip for you.
That's interesting. I mean, I wasn't particularly aware of that process. I don't do a great deal of cooking myself. I used to, but I don't now. But oh, that's an interesting tip. Yes, yes. It's in the alleged words of Michael Caine. Not a lot of people know that. So a few more people do know it, thanks to you.
Yeah, there you go.
There you
Well,
go,
that's
indeed.
all I have. Do you have anything else to add?
Not particularly. No, offhand I can't think of. I mean, this is sort of a little ad lib kind of a chat. I mean, normally I would go off and write it all down and all this kind of thing. But this is, as Shakespeare put it, "'tis extempore from my mother wit." And my mother wit does tend occasionally to be a bit saggy these days, like me. But
No. I love our chats. I think they're
I love
grand.
it. Oh, so do I. Yes, I mean, I think they're brilliant. I love the stuff you're doing at the moment. Your videos are very
And
good.
there's no better person to talk about St. Patty's Day.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, I can't agree with you because modesty forbids me from doing so, however correct you may be. But
All right. Well, then we'll wrap it up. Please like and sub to Denton's channel. We're trying to get it back up to where it was before because YouTube stole it and won't give it back. So like, sub, comment, do all the things. It really helps us both out to grow our channels and to get seen by more people. So it's very important. So if you enjoyed it, that's the absolute bare minimum appreciation that you can do for us. And we would thank you greatly.
indeed, we would appreciate that. I mean, Lily's videos are brilliant. And yes, so lots of likes. Tell your friends, tell the world, spread the word. Very, very good. You never know what happens.
Happy St. Patty's Day and All Snakes Day, my friend.
Absolutely, yes. Happy St. Patrick's Day and happy Snakes Day as well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye for now. Goodbye for now.